Winter 2003 Central Park was blanketed in golden leaves, cold winds swirling around bare trees. Christmas music from the plaza mingled with the distant chime of church bells. Maria, just past her early 20s, wore a red wool scarf as she pushed a stroller carrying little Elsa, 2 years old, clutching a silver snowflake ornament in her small hand. Maria walked slowly, softly humming a Spanish lullaby, her warm voice mingling with the wind and making Elsa smile and babble along. Her phone rang. Maria frowned slightly, reaching for it while keeping her gentle gaze on her daughter. But just for a moment, her eyes were drawn to the colorful balloons being handed out to children nearby. She turned to take the call. 15 seconds later, the sharp pop of a balloon burst somewhere, followed by laughter blending into the festive music. And when Maria turned back, the stroller was empty. The pink wool dress was gone from sight. The silver snowflake lay on the frozen ground, spinning slowly in the sunset glow. Maria froze for one heartbeat, then her chest ignited with panic. She lunged forward, calling her daughter's name at the top of her lungs, her voice swallowed by music and chatter. She ran past vendor stalls, wild-eyed, spotting a father holding a little girl but not Elsa. And at the end of the walkway, she glimpsed a man in a black coat, clutching something small to his chest, vanishing into the crowd. Her heart pounded as if to shatter her ribs. Her voice broke on every Elsa, yet no one heard. The last image was her trembling hand picking up the silver snowflake, tears falling onto the white snow, then the screen faded to black, leaving only her desperate cries echoing into the void. 20 years later, on a winter morning in New York, cold sunlight streamed through the glass walls of the newly opened Hudson Yards Tower. The marble lobby gleamed under hurried footsteps. Maria, now a 5-year-old billionaire, wore a gray coat and scarf. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried a quiet weariness. She entered like any regular customer to inspect the new branch unannounced. At the reception desk, the blonde clerk kept typing without looking up, while branch manager Mark, a middle-aged man with an icy expression, glanced Maria over and waved her aside, curtly telling her to move for a VIP guest. Maria kept her polite tone, saying she only wanted to inquire about services for seniors, but received only a thin smile and a make an appointment by email. When Mark stepped forward to nudge her away from the counter, a sound came from behind, the swish of a mop on tile, and a young woman's clear voice. "Excuse me, she's elderly. Let me take her to a seat." Maria turned and saw a janitor in a blue uniform, brown hair tied neatly, bright eyes catching the sunlight through the glass eyes that made Maria's heart pause. Mark barked at the girl to mind her own work unless she wanted to lose her job. But the young woman stepped forward to shield Maria, saying calmly, "Respect doesn't require a title." Maria stood still, looking straight into those eyes, and in that moment, the melody of a Spanish lullaby seemed to rise from the depths of her memory, blending with the lobby's noise. Mark reached toward Maria again, but the girl caught his wrist and said firmly, "Don't touch her." Almost without thinking, Maria whispered, "Thank you, my daughter." The girl smiled faintly. "You can call me Elsa." The name was like an icy blade through Maria's chest. She gripped the chair beside her to steady herself. Elsa helped her to a seat, placed a bottle of water in her hand, then hurried back toward maintenance as the intercom called her. Maria watched her disappear through the door, white lobby lights glinting off the silver snowflake pendant at her own neck, the same one that had once fallen to frozen ground on the day she lost her entire world. That noon, Maria sat alone in her 80th floor office, white winter light spilling through the glass onto the gray carpet. The city below stretched like an endless grid of steel. She could still see the janitor's eyes, hear her voice, and the name that had struck like lightning, Elsa. She told herself it was coincidence that her Elsa had vanished 20 years ago. Perhaps gone forever, but her heart defied reason. She walked to her desk where her trusted aide Robert had just placed a stack of files. Her fingers tapped the desk, her voice low but sharp. "Robert, find me everything on the girl named Elsa working at Hudson Yards this morning." And she paused, swallowing back the lump in her throat. Arrange a full welfare health check for her, including a DNA test. Quietly. She mustn't know why. Robert, sensing the urgency, nodded and left without delay. When the door closed, Maria stood gripping the glass railing, looking down at the streams of traffic. In the city's roar, she almost heard a child's laughter and that old lullaby, close yet impossibly far. That evening, in a cramped Queens apartment with peeling paint, Elsa sat at a small table, sewing a tear in her uniform with quick, neat stitches. She folded it into a cloth bag for tomorrow. A hospital bill lay beside her old phone. A sent message read, "Transferred $300, buy medicine for foster mom." She poured herself water, gazing out at the flickering city lights like another, unreachable world. At the nearby station, she split her sandwich with a homeless old man, smiling when he squeezed her hand in thanks. Back home, she opened an email from HR. Company welfare checkup for all contract staff. She sighed in relief, not knowing her blood sample would soon reach a DNA lab. 2 days later, in a small meeting room on the 5th floor of Hudson Yards, Elsa sat across from Mark and Sophie, with an HR officer beside them. On the table lay a printed disciplinary form, disruptive conduct, offending a VIP in bold. Mark leaned back, arms crossed. "Sign, or you're out today." Elsa stayed calm, explaining she'd only defended an elderly woman from being shoved away. But Sophie smirked, a janitor playing hero. Mark played lobby footage on his laptop, but the part showing him shoving the woman was missing. When Elsa demanded the full recording, he claimed the camera was under maintenance. HR avoided her eyes. When the meeting paused, Mark cornered her in the hall, leaning close. "Sign it, or I'll accuse you of stealing a guest's watch. Who would believe a janitor?" Elsa's voice was steady as steel. "You can take my job, but not my dignity." What neither knew was that Robert had been standing at the corridor's end, recording every word. Late that night, Maria sat in her warm-lit penthouse office. The city outside glittered like a diamond carpet. Before her lay a sealed envelope marked "Confidential DNA result." Her hand trembled as she opened it. One line hit like a thunderclap. Parent, child match, 99.999%. Tears fell before she could stop them, smudging the ink. Elsa, my daughter, she whispered. The phone rang. Robert's urgent voice. Ma'am, Elsa's being processed for termination. They're meeting now at the branch. Maria shot to her feet. Prepare the car. Now. She strode out, the DNA report clutched in her fist, the ghost of a 20-year-old cry echoing in her ears. In the icy white-lit meeting room, Elsa sat alone at one end of the long table, the disciplinary form before her. Mark and Sophie sat opposite, arms crossed. Mark smirked. Last chance. Sign or leave. The door burst open, sharp heels striking the floor. Maria entered not the mild woman from days ago, but the formidable billionaire in a black coat, eyes like blades. Behind her came Robert and two lawyers. Silence fell. Maria marched to the table, slamming the DNA report down in front of Mark. Who here just tried to fire my daughter? Gasps filled the room. Elsa's eyes widened. What did you say? Maria turned to her, eyes wet but voice unwavering. 20 years ago, I lost you in Central Park. Today, I found you. Elsa froze, speechless. Mark stammered denials, but Robert pressed play on his recorder. Mark's threats filling the room, color drained from their faces. Maria ignored them, stepping forward to embrace Elsa tightly, unwilling to let go. She released her, but kept hold of her hand, addressing HR. Immediately void this disciplinary action. And her gaze cut to Mark and Sophie. These two are suspended, pending investigation for abuse of authority. That night, in Maria's penthouse overlooking the Hudson River, Elsa stood before a bookshelf, her fingers brushing framed photographs. Maria emerged holding a small, worn wooden box. Inside lay the silver snowflake pendant Elsa had held the day she vanished. You wore this that day. I've kept it for 20 years, Maria said, voice trembling. Elsa touched it, faint memories flooding back the Spanish lullaby, the warmth of her mother's arms. Maria softly sang it again, voice breaking. Duermete mi niña, duermete mi sol. Elsa burst into tears, throwing her arms around her mother. Outside, snow fell gently onto the dark river, carrying away the losses of the past, leaving behind the wholeness of a present where mother and daughter were finally reunited. If you'd like, I can also prepare a condensed cinematic script format from this translation, so it reads like a ready-to-shoot screenplay, with scene headings and dialogue breaks. Would you like me to do that next? In the vast living room of the penthouse, soft golden lights washed over antique paintings and endless bookshelves. Maria sat at a walnut table, a thick folder before her, a vintage fountain pen at her side. Elsa sat opposite, still overwhelmed by the lavish surroundings, her hands gently clasped together. Maria gazed at her daughter for a long time, her eyes tender as if to make up for all the years lost. She opened the folder, slid it toward Elsa, her voice low but resolute. All of my assets, companies, real estate, charitable funds, from now on, they will bear your name. You will be my sole legal heir. Elsa froze. shaking her head repeatedly. No, I'm just a janitor. I don't deserve this. Maria rose, stepped forward, and embraced her tightly, whispering with a broken voice, "You are my daughter. That alone makes you worthy of everything." Tears streamed down Elsa's face as her trembling hand picked up the pen and signed her name beneath the words, "Heir." The moment the ink touched paper, Maria pressed her forehead to her daughter's, and both burst into sobs. Outside the window, New York blazed with lights, the Hudson River reflecting a glittering sky. Maria whispered, "These assets aren't just for you, they're for us, a family." Elsa gripped her mother's hand, nodding, her eyes shining with the faith and love lost, for 20 years now, finally found. At the Grand Hall of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, the annual Maria Group press conference was underway. Hundreds of reporters crowded in, camera flashes exploding, a giant LED screen glowing with the company logo. Maria stepped from backstage, regal in a black evening gown, her hair in a high bun, each stride deliberate upon the red carpet. Beside her, Elsa in a simple yet elegant white dress, eyes timid amid the chaos. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Who is that girl? Why is she with Chairwoman Maria? Maria paused at the podium, placed her hand on the microphone, her voice deep and commanding. 20 years ago, I lost the most precious thing in my life, my daughter. But today, I have found her again. The hall erupted. Cameras fired like fireworks. Maria turned, clasping Elsa's hand, lifting her arm for all to see. Allow me to introduce Elsa Maria Delgado, my biological daughter, and the sole legal heir to this corporation. The flashbulbs exploded like stars. Some reporters wiped away tears. Others rushed with questions. Elsa trembled, her palms icy. But Maria squeezed her hand and whispered, "I'm here. Just smile." Elsa nodded faintly, her lips curving into a hesitant yet radiant smile. The hall fell silent for a few seconds, as if to honor the sight of mother and daughter embracing on stage, a moment not merely of inheritance, but living proof that while money cannot buy everything, maternal love can make the world bow its head. Behind the stage of the Waldorf Astoria Conference Hall, the flashes had faded, the noise of the press still echoing faintly. The backstage room was quiet, save for the ticking of a clock. Elsa sat numbly on a velvet chair, hands clenched, shoulders trembling. She still could not believe she had just stood before hundreds of reporters as the chairwoman's daughter. Maria entered, carrying a fur coat, gently draping it over her daughter's shoulders. She sat down beside her, saying nothing, only holding Elsa's hand in silence. After a long pause, Maria exhaled, her voice breaking. "I missed 20 years, your birthdays, your sick days, your nights of tears. I can't turn back time, but I swear I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Elsa turned to her, eyes brimming. "I don't need wealth. I don't need fame. I just want my mother." Maria broke down, pulling her daughter into a fierce embrace, their hair mingling as their tears soaked each other's shoulders. In that moment, all the glitter of wealth, all the flashes outside, became meaningless. Only one vow remained, whispered in the quiet room. I will never lose you again. The first spring morning after their winter reunion. Pale golden sunlight streamed through the white curtains of the vast penthouse overlooking the Hudson River. New York was still loud, packed with honking cars, yet inside this high-rise apartment, there was only the gentle whistle of a boiling kettle and the rich aroma of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Maria, in a light beige sweater, her hair down, no makeup, no heels, was quietly slicing bread. She could not remember the last time she had prepared breakfast herself. For 20 years, she had lived surrounded by staff, elegant dining tables, every meal as refined as a banquet. But today, Maria wanted to cook, to do something with her own hands for her daughter. Elsa walked out, hair slightly tousled, wearing an oversized white t-shirt and checkered pajama pants. She froze for a moment at the sight of her mother, the legendary billionaire, clumsily fussing in the kitchen like any ordinary woman. Mom, let me do it, Elsa said with a soft laugh. Maria turned, smiling tenderly. Let me relearn. I've missed 20 years. Now I must start over. They sat at the table with nothing but toast, butter, strawberry jam, and two steaming cups of coffee. No lavish feast, just a simple breakfast. Yet for Maria, it was the most delicious meal of her life. For when she looked up, Elsa's eyes sparkled, her smile brighter than all the camera flashes that had ever surrounded Maria at press conferences. They began learning how to live together. Maria took Elsa to the weekend farmers market at Union Square. Elsa laughed as she bit into a shiny red apple, mingling with the crowd. Maria followed behind, carrying the basket, both bewildered and strangely lighthearted. For 20 years, her world had been billion-dollar deals and glittering conferences. Never once had she bargained for fresh flowers or tasted bread from a street baker. But Elsa was pulling her back into that simple world, the one Maria had lost long ago. At home, they cleaned together. Elsa climbed on a chair to wipe the window, while Maria held it steady. Mom, I can do it. You don't have to hold. No, I must. I lost you once. I cannot risk losing again, Maria blurted, her voice breaking. Elsa stopped, eyes misting, climbed down and hugged her tightly. I'm here now. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Warm evenings. They sat on the sofa, watching old family films from the 92nd. Elsa giggled at the retro scenes, while Maria barely watched, her gaze fixed on her daughter, memorizing every expression, every smile. Sometimes they opened Maria's old photo albums. Elsa, laughing at pictures of her mother in youth, long hair, timid eyes, so different from the stern tycoon the world knew today. Maria shared stories of lonely nights in her vast, empty mansion, staring out windows longing for the figure of a little girl running home. Elsa spoke of a childhood of scarcity, bullied for not having parents, yet always believing that somewhere in the world her mother remembered her. Their words wove together like stitches, mending the torn fabric of both their hearts. One Sunday, they went to Central Park. This time, it was no longer a place of loss, but a garden where they planted new happiness. They rented bicycles, rode under the spring breeze, their hair flying. When tired, they stopped under a great tree, bought vanilla ice creams. Elsa laughed with cream on her nose, Maria wiping it away, remembering she had once done the same for a little girl long ago. Maria pulled a new journal from her bag, handed it to Elsa. Write here everything you want to do, big or small. I promise to be with you, whether it's traveling, going back to college, or simply learning to cook a new dish. Elsa opened the book, the first page blank. Smiling, she wrote with trembling hand. The first thing, live with Mom. Maria read, embraced her, tears falling yet smiling through them. And then night fell. In the quiet penthouse, Elsa slept peacefully in her own room, while Maria sat by the vast window overlooking the city of 1,000 lights. Before her was not a billion-dollar contract, but a photo taken that afternoon, two women laughing together in Central Park. Maria lifted it gently, whispering, God has returned you to me. She rose, opened Elsa's door, peeking inside. The young woman lay fast asleep, her face serene. Maria stepped closer, pulled the blanket up to her shoulders, kissed her forehead. In that moment, she was no longer a powerful billionaire, no longer the iron lady of the business world. She was only a mother who had finally found her daughter after 20 years apart. Maria closed the door softly, returning to her room. Outside, New York still blazed, but inside her, all the noise had stilled. Only one sound remained, forever echoing. Elsa's first word on the day of reunion, Mom.